All right, we're all ready to go. Heather, you want to
Yep, I'll kick us
open?
off. Okay, welcome to the Elimination of Prejudice Foundation June webinar. My name's Heather Staranka, and I'm happy to be a board member of Elimination of Prejudice Foundation. At EOPF, as we call it, we are really dedicated to eliminating all types of prejudice in all communities. This month, in celebration of Pride, we are very happy to welcome author, editor, professor, world traveler, Dr. Ken Schneck. He's going to talk to us about the critical importance of amplifying LGBTQ plus voices right this very second. Let me tell you a little bit about Ken, and then I will let him get started. Ken is the editor of the Buckeye Flame. If you're not aware of that and you live in Ohio, it is a wonderful news source, and it amplifies the voices of LGBTQ plus Ohioans to support the community and civic empowerment through the creation of engaging content, chronicling the triumphs, struggles, and lived experiences of the LGBTQ community. This is the only statewide news forum that is dedicated to meet the needs of more than 460,000 Ohioans. He's an award-winning producer, radio podcast host. He's the author of Seriously, What Am I Doing Here? The Adventures of a Wandering Gay Jew, and also 3 books about LGBTQ history for Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. In his spare time, he is a professor at Baldwin Wallace University. Ken, welcome to the Elimination of Prejudice Foundation.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me, everybody. And I know we have attendees and panelists. We're here too. And so we'll be using our chat. And if you are watching this in a recording, you can use a chat, a piece of paper. I have no idea, but shout things out because it's interactive, even if you are not watching live. It's such a treat to be here, and I'm so appreciative of the invitation. And I'm just going to jump right in because that's what I do, because it's Pride Month and we should jump right into things. So let me cue up my little presentation here. Heather's going to give me a thumbs up if it's on the screen.
You're good to go.
Thank you. All right. So thought we would talk a little bit about, news literacy. We'll talk a little bit about the Buckeye Flame, what's going on in the world. Yay, happy Pride. Also, things aren't so great right now for LGBTQ people. And so wanted to have a conversation with you all based in current practice and current reality. But I'm also a professor of diversity. I mean, that's largely what I teach about is racial justice and diversity in society. And so just as I would not depress my students and then leave, I will endeavor to not do the same for you all and to give you some information, but then also maybe give you some direction. So attendees who are with us live, get your chat ready because we're going to be doing some interactive stuff. As Heather mentioned, I'm the editor of the Buckeye Flame. The Buckeye Flame stands as Ohio's only LGBTQ news and views platform. I say to anybody who will listen, this is the most important thing I have ever done in my entire life. It has been a treat. We're about to celebrate our 2-year anniversary. And we were formed here in Ohio because Ohio is one of those states, and I know you all are listening from all over the country, but Ohio is one of those states where LGBTQ people do not have protections in employment or protections in housing or protections in public accommodations. So I could be fired from my job or kicked out of my apartment, which would be weird because it's my own house, but my cats could kick me out of my own house for being gay, or I could be kicked out of a restaurant here in Ohio for being gay. And that is entirely legal here in the state of Ohio. And so to a small group of us, it was unacceptable that there wasn't a publication that spoke to the needs of the LGBTQ community here. So we formed the Buckeye Flame. We're a 501c3. If you've not followed us, we are at the Buckeye Flame. I'll give you more information on us later. Here's what we're going to do. So we're going to do a little bit of an LGBTQ news quiz. It is not Ohio specific, though there are some Ohio questions. And then I'm going to just give you some lessons that I've learned, especially here in Pride Month. Pride Month is a time to know our history, but it's also a time to make a difference. That's how Pride started, was people who needed to make a difference, largely Black trans people, and we'll talk about that as well. But there's a lot of difference that needs to be made these days. And so I'm going to give you some tips that I've learned in how to raise up and amplify LGBTQ voices. So here we go. Ready? News quiz. So get your chat ready, live people. People at home who are not watching live, just shout out your answers. And we'll go one by one instead of you writing them all down. So here's our news quiz. We got 11 questions. Everybody's playing. On June 7th. So what we're doing All of these things have happened in the past 6 weeks. We're not going back years. In the past 6 weeks, all of these things have happened, these 11 questions. So let's start with the most recent. On June 7th, which was just last week, the Pennsylvania Senate did what? Did they A, impose an extra fee on LGBTQ business owners? Did they B, create a safety program for Black trans women? Did they C, ban trans youth from athletics? Or D, refuse to acknowledge bisexual identity? A couple people answering C there in the chat. Any other answers? Well done. The answer is C. The Pennsylvania Senate banned trans youth from athletics. The Pennsylvania House of Representatives has already banned trans youth from athletics. This will now go to the governor's desk, the governor of Pennsylvania, who is expected to veto it, but we will see what happens after that. We'll get to that in a different question. Let's do Ohio. June 1st, Ohio celebrated Pride. First day of Pride Month. What did we do to celebrate Pride? Was it A, did we finally fly the Pride flag at the State House, which we've been waiting for years? Did we B, veto an equal protection bill? Was it C, did we offer ride shares to prides? Or did we D, ban trans youth from sports? A, B, C, or D? Some B's, some D's. It's a little repetitive from the first one, but indeed, here in the state of Ohio, we not only banned trans youth from sports, so it was D, although thank you for answering C. That makes me feel good about that. Keep in mind that for every one of these, I had to come up with 3 fake answers. So I need some credit for all of that. So it validates me when you choose a fake answer. But it is D, ban trans youth. This was an unbelievable story that just happened at the start of Pride Month, where a Republican member of the Ohio House of Representatives hijacked the entire State House floor and tacked on an amendment to an unrelated bill. The bill was actually to increase resources. It was to increase resources for teachers here in Ohio. And after 11 p.m., she tacked on an amendment to ban trans youth from sports. And that's what happened after 11 o'clock at night. That's what the Ohio House of Representatives did. More on that in a few. On June 2nd, what did North Carolina do? Did they A, force school staff to out LGBTQ kids to parents? What did the bill that they passed ban pride flags from government buildings? Did the bill C impose a pride tax? Or was it D, did the bill create a gay tariff? A, B, C, or D? Charmaine says A. Oh, consensus. That is correct. The correct answer is A. The bill that was passed just last week in North Carolina would force school staff to out LGBTQ kids to parents, teachers, and staff. This is alarming. This is part of North Carolina's Don't Say Gay bill, which was popularized in Florida, but North Carolina's is even worse. Question number 4. Alabama, in the past 6 weeks, they just signed a bill into law that does what? Allows trans youth in sports up to age 13. That's A. Is it B, limit college admissions to LGBTQ applicants? Is it C, imposes felony criminal penalties on medical professionals who offer gender affirming care? Or was it D, ban the word homosexual? What did they do in Alabama in the past 6 weeks? Good. Look at this. News literacy is a great thing. That is the correct answer. The correct answer is C. Right there in Alabama, they are imposing felony criminal penalties on medical professionals who offer gender affirming care. Gender affirming care has largely been found to be life-saving. It reduces suicidality. It reduces depression and anxiety for trans youth. But right there in the state of Alabama, if you offer gender affirming care, you can be charged with felony criminal penalties. Arizona. Arizona just signed their how many anti-LGBTQ bills of the year? Keep in mind, we're only in month 6 here. Was it 0? But holy cow, do they have a ton in the works? Did they sign their first? Did they sign their second? Or did Arizona just sign their third? A, B, C, or D? I think you guys are plants. You're doing very, very well. Thank you, Evan, for validating one of my fake answers. That made me feel better than the people who got it correct, Evan. Please know that. In your wrongness, it made me feel good. The correct answer is indeed D. We are only halfway through the year, and Arizona, has already signed their third anti-LGBTQ bill of the year. Number 6, the Kentucky governor in the past 6 weeks, what did he do? Did he A, veto a bill that would ban trans youth from athletics? Did he B, sue an LGBTQ plus equality organization? Did he C, yell at other governors for not doing more to ban LGBTQ equality? Or did he D, propose a new law that would limit LGBTQ police officers? A, B, C, or D? Got some C's. You just have the governor of Kentucky yelling. That's what people are going with. I love it. This was my one happy question. The correct answer was A. He vetoed a bill that would ban trans youth from athletics. That's as far as this happy question goes, because right after he vetoed it, the Kentucky legislature overrode his veto and they banned trans youth from athletics. South Carolina. Oh, by the way, let's go back to Ohio for a second, that the House has passed a ban. It still needs to go to the Senate. Currently, there is one trans athlete registered in the state of Ohio. One trans athlete who's registered through the Ohio High School Athletic Association. So bills for one trans athlete. Okay, number 7, only a few more, and then I'm done depressing you. South Carolina just passed a bill that would allow what? A, teachers to opt out of LGBTQ professional development. B, judges to unequally administer the law. C, doctors to refuse care based on their personal beliefs. Or D, police to arrest LGBTQ individuals who are smiling. What did it allow? Got some C's. Charmaine's going with C and A, which Charmaine is called cheating. It's called cheating, Charmaine. The correct answer was one of Charmaine's 2 answers. It is D. Doctors are allowed to refuse care based on their personal beliefs, based on their ethical beliefs, based on their religious beliefs, based on their moral beliefs. It is called a practitioner conscience law, and many states are passing them. Now, the response that I often hear from people, particularly in the LGBTQ community, are, well, then just go to a different doctor. No. So many LGBTQ people are in rural areas where there is only one specialist, where there is only one primary care person. And so if that individual refuses to treat you based on their beliefs, based possibly on your LGBTQ identities, you don't really have a choice there. You will not have healthcare. Number 8, Happy Pride Month. This is depressing. Tennessee just passed a bill. What did Tennessee do? Did they ban trans youth in sports? That's A. Did they B, restrict funding to schools who support trans equality? Was it C, did they outlaw kaleidoscopes in schools? Or D, did they allow churches to refuse LGBTQ people at the door? A, B, C, or D? Jack was quick off the buzzer there. Some B's, some A's. Oh, split down the middle. Thank you all. That makes me feel good. The correct answer is indeed B. They are restricting funding to schools who support trans equality because they've already banned trans youth from sports. And so any school who allows trans students to play in sports there in the great state of Tennessee will lose funding. There you go. Number 9, Georgia. They just banned trans youth from sports as well. How did they do it? Did they A, throw in the word transgender into the bill's language at the very last minute? Did they B, do it without public debate? Did they C, do it in the dead of night? Or was it D, did they throw in the word transgender into the bill's language at the very last minute without public debate in the dead of night? I'll give you a hint. The answer is D. Very good. Look, this is what we're seeing across the country. This is what we saw here in Ohio 2 weeks ago. This is what we're seeing in legislatures, that it's not just that these LGBTQ, anti-LGBTQ bills are passing, it's that they're doing so without any type of public debate, which is problematic given that the polling in this country is that people are supporting LGBTQ equality. 2 more. Ohio's, this one's really important to me. Ohio's HB 616, which people call the Don't Say Gay bill here in Ohio. How does that bill start? How does it HB 616 start? Is it A, outlaws mentions of sexual orientation to grades K through 3? Does it start with barring teachers from participating in professional development and creating inclusive classrooms? Does it C, start with mentioning the word divisive, which by the way is never defined in the bill? Or does it D, ban conversations about race and intersectionality? How does this bill start? C's? Ooh, oh, look how you all agree. That's amazing. You're all wrong, but I love that you all agree. This is hugely important. Look, this has been called the Don't Say Gay bill. And yes, this bill 100% outlaws mentions of sexual orientation to grades K through 3. That is in the bill. That means no family trees. That means no show and tells. That means anything that mentions LGBTQ people. That means children's books who might have same-sex parents. That is in the bill, A. Yes, it does do B. It bars teachers from participating in professional development and creating inclusive classrooms. DEI work, diversity, equity, inclusion work, that is outlawed. Teachers will not be able to participate in that. It absolutely does C as well. The word divisive is in this bill 7 times. That's what's being banned, but it's never defined. But here's the key piece. HB 616, again called the Don't Say Gay bill, starts and ends with banning conversations about race and intersectionality. I see so many conversations take place about these bills that solely talk about sexual orientation, that solely talk about LGBTQ identity. That means that when we have those conversations, we're not being intersectional, which is ironic because these bills are banning conversations about race and intersectionality. So as someone who teaches about race and intersectionality, it is so important that when we have these conversations about these bills, that we don't just leave off the part of the conversation that talks about race and intersectionality. That's what these bills are trying to do to start with. So important that we get that in there. I threw in a bonus question. This one is not in the past 6 weeks. This is in the past 6 months, but it's my favorite thing that's happened in the past year in Ohio. The School Board of New Richmond, Ohio, this is just your bonus question. School Board of New Richmond in Ohio, what did they ban? A, LGBTQ history. B, LGBTQ bathroom access. C, rainbows. Or D, school nurses treating students equally. Can't believe that some of you are getting this right. It's my favorite story. And it went viral because it's so ridiculous. In the town of New Richmond, Ohio, they're definitely not a city. They are not, I think a city is 5,000. They are less than 5,000. The school board said, you know what? We're banning rainbows. They're too political. We don't want any rainbows in any classrooms. And rainbows to this day are banned in New Richmond, Ohio. All right, that's all the depressing stuff. Now, I will do some good news that is breaking news. Maybe not breaking if you're watching this, I'm recording, but breaking news. President Biden today announced his intention to sign some executive orders that will hopefully fight some of the actions on some of these states. In particular, some of the actions that he is going to take on would be to ban conversion therapy. Conversion therapy is 100% legal here in the state of Ohio. Conversion therapy has been discredited by every major medical organization in the country, every major psychological organization. Conversion therapy, also called reparative therapy, doesn't work. It is scientifically proven to not work, that you cannot change someone's sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression. And not only does it not work, but it does harm. It increases suicidal ideation, increases anxiety, increases depression. So there is some good news on the horizon. What do we do with all this, right? What do we do? Heather knows I'm not just going to depress you and then be like, all right, Happy Pride, everybody. Have fun out there. No, what do we do with all of this? What do we do with all this? I'm a big fan of us doing something with it, right? And here are some of the things that I've learned and some of the tips that I can give you. I get hit up all the time from individuals who want to make a difference, who say, you know what, I really want to lift up LGBTQ voices. I really want to make a difference. Certainly in my areas of teaching around race, around intersectionality, around racial justice in society, people want to make a difference. Making a difference is a beautiful concept, but what you need, now we're going to Ken's Learning Annex. The first thing that you need is a thing. What is the thing that you want to make a difference on? It can't be LGBTQ equality. There's too much going on. Is it gender affirming care? Is it curriculum? Is it conversion therapy? I know for me, my thing is blood donation. Right this very second, the FDA, which is the government body that oversees all blood donation in the United States, LGBTQ people, men, let me be specific, men who have had sex with men since 1977 and women who have had sex with men who have had sex with men since 1977 are banned from giving blood for a year. I have life-saving blood. I am the universal donor. I cannot go out today and give blood unless I promise that I have been celibate in the past year. So we talk all the time about there's a blood shortage. There's a blood shortage. There is a blood shortage. I cannot donate blood. I will say, and some of you I work with, so this is not casting aspersions on my university where I work, but my university has a lot of blood drives, which I think is a wonderful thing. I cannot tell you how dehumanizing it is to me to see posters up for blood drives, posters that say, be a hero, or posters that say, get free Chipotle. I want free Chipotle, but I can't, because I can't give blood. Even on a cellular level, this country discriminates me as an out gay man. Okay, so my thing is blood donation. Your thing might be trans youth in sports. Your thing might be gender affirming care. Your thing might be legal protections in employment, in public accommodations, in housing. It might be a non-discrimination statement, but it has to be specific. Do not try to take on all the things, because as we know, do-gooders, that's how you burn out. So first you need a thing. And then you need a goal. What kind of difference are you trying to make, right? I want to make a difference. That's not a goal. It needs to be more specific. Do you want a certain number of people to show up for an event? Do you want a certain number of people to order your literature, to post this on Facebook, to share it on Facebook? Whatever it is, you need a measurable goal to make a difference, right? You need a thing. I'm going to go back a second. Hold on. You need a thing and you need a goal. You need to know what other people are doing. Wherever you are in the country, and again, we're focused on LGBTQ identity, and you can use what I'm telling you right now to make a difference. These are my general rules. Heather and I have had these conversations about just making a difference in society, right? You can use this for anything. I'm applying it to Pride Month. I'm applying it to LGBTQ equality, but use this for any type of do-gooder action that you want to do. You need to know who else is working in this space. Who are the organizations out there in the LGBTQ space? Who are the organizations out there in your state? What are they working on? Before you go out there and put up a post and say, here's this thing, I'm going to make a difference. Is there a group already working on it? Partner up with them. You can't know that, though, unless you get the comp knowledge. Who else is working in this space? I've been doing a lot of work these days on faith-based organizations, faith-based universities, particularly in the Midwest, who have applied for exemptions and been granted exemptions by the federal government so that it is legal to discriminate against their LGBTQ students. It's called a Title VII exemption. I've been working on this. I just found out the other day there's an organization called REAP, Religious Education Accountability Project. And they're working on this too. I had absolutely no idea. So now I'm sure as heck partnering up with them and amplifying their work. You can't do that unless you know who else is working in that space. You do need authenticity when you're doing this do-gooder work. What is your thing? Are you a data wonk? Be a data wonk. Are you a stand-up comic? Be a stand-up comic. Insert this into your comedy. Are you a curriculum development person? Amazing. Are you a lawyer? Wonderful. But go with your thing, right? Too often I attend programs. Actually, can I just put a period there? Too often I attend programs, period. But I'll keep going. Too often I attend programs where people are outside of their lane. I'm all for broadening what it is that we do, but it's okay to go with your strengths. I am not a data person. So if I stand up there and start calculating T-scores, that would be a joke. If I present to you, here's my research, my quantitative research, Heather should be one of the first person who says, I wouldn't trust that research. It's not what he does, because I have no idea how to do it, right? I know what it is that I do. And so I partner up with other people who complement my skills, but always go with your authenticity. And the most important thing, nobody cares at all about your thing, about your goal, about your authenticity, if there is not a sense of urgency. What is the sense of urgency of all of these different issues that we're talking about, right? Can we slip them in quickly? All right. So this is how you practically do it. Any questions so far? How we doing? Put anything in the chat. We're doing okay, Heather? We're doing well? All right.
I always feel inspired when I talk to
Yay!
you. So
Oh my God,
thank you.
We'll dial down those
That's your thing. That's your thing.
Okay. And by the way, sense of urgency is big. We as humans hate change. Even if the thing sucks, we'll take the thing that sucks because the thing that we don't know might be worse. And anytime we're trying to do good in society, we are inherently pushing people for a change, right? And so a sense of urgency is what gets people unstuck. It doesn't mean yelling fire in a crowded theater, but it does mean highlighting for people, if we don't make a change, anxiety and depression are going to increase. If we don't make a change, trans youth might consider suicide more than they already are, which is an astronomical rate. I just wrote an article last night about the unbelievable need in Ohio for foster parents, because they did some research that they thought it was going to be 8 or 9. See, I'm doing numbers, which is impressive for me. They thought it was going to be 8 or 9% of youth in foster care in the county where I live. They thought it was going to be 8 or 9% would be LGBTQ, and they just did the research. It's 32%. That's a sense of urgency. 32% of youth in foster care in my county are LGBTQ. All right, Heather knows this one. This is how we make people care about your thing. This is elevator pitch 101. I'm going to do it in less than 5 minutes. Less than 5 minutes, elevator pitch 101. How do we take a news article and make people care about it? If you've never done an elevator pitch, we all need to be working on our elevator pitches. All right, number one, I gotta move my little chat bar. We need to be able to summarize the news that we're seeing in one sentence. You want to make people care about the story that you're seeing, you need to be able to summarize it in one sentence. Not in a clickbait way. I am not a fan of clickbait. I will never do clickbait. I will never promise something that I'm not delivering on. What you're about to read is the scariest thing you'll ever see. That might not be true. Don't say stuff like that. That is not a summary. That's a sense of urgency that doesn't pay off, which we'll talk about in a second, okay? We need to be able to summarize in one sentence. We published a story earlier this week. A play that's minimally LGBTQ was canceled by the school district in Southern Ohio, leaving the students with no fall production. One sentence. Okay. Then we need to, sentence number 2, create a sense of urgency. I can keep going with that one. The blood drive one is a little bit easier, right? Let me do the blood drive one. Let's go back. LGBTQ people cannot go out right this very second and donate blood, period. That's true. Sense of urgency. There is an unbelievable blood shortage in this country. And so there are individuals like myself It's always good to use yourself in these things if you can. There are individuals like myself who would love to be able to donate life-saving blood who cannot do that because my blood is banned by the FDA. That's a pretty good sense of urgency. It doesn't always have to be death. By the way, a sense of urgency can also be something positive. If we do this thing, we'll get more resources. If we create an LGBTQ employee resource group, we will have access to more funding. That's a great sense of urgency. It doesn't always have to be someone's going to die. Present a possible solution, right? A possible solution would be we move towards England's parameters that don't have a 1-year waiting period for LGBTQ people to donate blood. There's a possible solution. We don't want to activate people and then run away. Because you just activated people, now direct them what to do with their energy, right? So present a possible solution. And then the last piece, sentence number 4, is you want to ask people to do something specific. You just got them riled up. I cannot go give blood right now, even though I have the blood type that will save all of you. There's a blood shortage and my blood is badly needed. We really need to change the blood donation guidelines, right? That's sentence 3. So to be more like England, where there's not a year waiting period. So what I need you to do is I need you to reach out to your local representative. I will provide you with an email template. I will provide you with their address. Please send this today. What I need you to do is that along with your blood drive, I need there to be a petition to track the people who were denied from being able to give blood. Ask people to do something specific. Okay, here's your recap. We're summarizing it in one sentence. Don't just read a news article and not tell someone else about it. Take one of the 11 things I told you today, tell somebody else. Establish the sense of urgency. Why is this important? We just published, and it can be an op-ed. We just published an op-ed, I think it was the end of last week. It might've been Monday. This week is going interestingly. I think it was Monday, where it was an op-ed from a mother of a trans youth who wrote a letter, an open letter to the state of Ohio on why she is relocating her family to another state because she fears for her safety of her trans son. There's a sense of urgency. Hello, Ohio. You're saying constantly that you want to keep everyone in the state. Here's how your legislation is causing people to leave. The possible solution would be stop passing these horrible things. And so I'm going to ask you in sentence 4 to please stop passing these horrible things. It might be using your corporate connections, right? Many of you work for some really powerful corporations. That's wonderful. Them using their voices to say, you know what? These policies, these bills are horrible for our economies. If I'm looking to relocate my business, why would I go to a place where LGBTQ people are not going to be able to apply? That's elevator pitch 1, 2, 3, and 4. I use this constantly. Constantly. I cannot tell you, by the way, how many people, because we use this even for creatives, for people who want to market their work. People do 1, 2, and 3, and then they leave off 4. So people will send me something, and I have a sense they want me to do something. I have no idea what it is. You actually have to do sentence 4. Ask people to do something specific. If you want people to share it on Facebook, say, please share this on Facebook. We always think, well, if it's just alarming, they'll just share it. That's not true. We see alarming stuff all the time. Actually ask people, please go buy my book. Please go subscribe to the Buckeye Flame. Please share this story. Okay. That's sentence 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay. A couple other things that have really helped me out, and then I'm all done. I have to say that one of the most incredible things that I have experienced, and in particular in Pride Month, is just this feeling of support. We want to keep it going past Pride Month, right? We want to have LGBTQ programming in all of the other months as well, particularly when people are not activated. But this supporting each other is a really big deal. That also includes showing up to things that on their face value don't look like they're your thing. Often I work with organizations, community groups, nonprofits who say, nobody came to my event. Oh, How often do you go to other people's events? I don't. Yeah, that's a thing. You actually have to show up to other people's things. Nobody donated to my thing. Do you donate to other people's things? Right? When I run a fundraiser, I am getting so much guilt money of people who donate to my thing solely because I donated to theirs. Here's the thing, at the end of the day, for my nonprofit, all the money looks the same. It's not coded, here are the people who donated because you donated to theirs, and then here are the people who, right? It doesn't, it's all the same. Right? People show up to something that I throw. I know that there are people who show up who are like, oh man, I don't really want to go, but he came to my thing. Everybody looks the same because I do the same thing. People who show up for my stuff, I then turn around. So we have to support each other, and you have to do it in a way where you're supporting things that don't look on their face value like they're your thing. This is what intersectionality is all about. Show up for a cause that you think has nothing to do with you. First of all, it probably does. Second of all, show up for something that you think has nothing to do with you. Supporting each other is big. Word of mouth is huge. If you have that elevator pitch down, if you're able to do those 4 sentences succinctly, right? Because everybody's moving, and that includes on a Facebook post. If any Facebook post of yours is longer than 4 sentences, you've lost me. I've moved on to something else. If you are able to hone that pitch, if you're able to talk about an LGBTQ issue in a really tight way, other people, you've then enabled them to tell somebody else. I talk about stuff that has nothing to do with me all the time, but the only times I do it are when someone explained it to me in a way that I can understand and I can relate to someone else succinctly. I love doing word of mouth. I love promoting other people. The people I don't promote, the ones who told me this really long story that I didn't really understand, or just something that I didn't understand that was short either, right? Didn't have a sense of urgency. Word of mouth is big. And then the last one I want to throw out there is timing. This is really important and something that I've added into the mix because I'm seeing people do, I don't have a better word than tacky, but tacky is not your friend when you're trying to make a difference, when you're trying to raise up other voices. Here in Cleveland, when we had those, when there were those horrific murders in Atlanta of Asian and Asian American, AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander individuals, they held a big Stop Asian Hate gathering rally, right, that I attended. And there was a guy walking around the rally with a clipboard, signing people up, trying to get email addresses for a completely unrelated thing. I see that all the time. Don't do that. Support the thing that you're going to. Don't co-opt. I mean, it can happen even on a Facebook thread, on a Twitter thread, where people are like, oh yeah, that makes me think of my cause and I want to shout out my fundraiser. That's not, you've co-opted, right? That's not supporting each other. That's taking attention away from something else. So I want people to be really careful about timing because it can really sour the waters. Okay. Thoughts. We'll come back to the thought screen. Here, I'll do the information screen, right? Like I have you captive. So here's the elevator pitch. The Buckeye Flame, we are Ohio's only LGBTQ publication. So if you have not followed us on social media, please, 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 Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the Buckeye Flame. And then the big thing for us is the tiny URL there to subscribe. That's really, really important for us. It's free. You get a newsletter once a week and you don't have to pay any money for it, but it really helps us keep going. So if you've not subscribed to the Buckeye Flame, it's right there, tinyurl.com/the Buckeye Flame Spark. tinyurl.com/the Buckeye Flame Spark. Certainly, if you need to get in touch with me, editor@thebuckeyeflame.com. Now back to thoughts. Yes, Charmaine, thanks so much for that. Yeah, I think that timing piece is really important. You know, I think back in the day, ACT UP. So ACT UP was my hero organization. So let's talk a little bit about LGBTQ history. ACT UP, the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. They were an incredible group, particularly out of New York City, though they were all over the country. They chained themselves to the stock exchange. This was largely in the 80s and early 90s when medications were just not being released by the federal government for HIV and AIDS. So they had these really disruptive actions. Chained themselves to the stock exchange. They barred themselves to the doors of St. Patrick's Cathedral, St. Rod. I'm a gay Jew. I don't know. It was a cathedral. It was in New York City. It was a big deal. So they did really disruptive things. But here's the coolest thing that they did. One of the coolest things that they did. They did amazing things. They had trainings for people before they had the rallies, before they had the actions, so that every single person who attended the event knew the elevator pitch. So that if the media approached anyone, they were getting the same message all the time. So that if that's not the case now, right? So Charmaine's having a rally for reproductive justice, which, my God, do we need rallies for reproductive justice? Charmaine's having this rally. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go support Charmaine's rally. And then the media approaches me, right? And they say, oh, tell us why you're here. I'm like, well, it's actually really good that you asked me. Climate change is something that I care very deeply about. No, that wasn't the thing. That wasn't what Charmaine was hosting, right? And so ACT UP made sure that everybody had the elevator pitch down pat so that they were all on the same page. It was a really effective strategy. Elevator pitch is one of my favorite things. I do it for creatives. So a free little tool. I will put it in the chat. That you can use for your do-good organizations, for your creative endeavors. tinyurl.com/elevator pitch, please. It's just a fun little worksheet that you can use. I use it all the time. I use it for my creative endeavors. I use it for my nonprofit. You can use it for your business teams. Give everybody the elevator pitch on your team, whatever team you're on, nonprofit boards. I know a lot of you are on boards. Give everybody the elevator pitch sheet and ask them to fill it out for your nonprofit separately, and then compare them. And I will almost guarantee you, people are going to have different sentences. It's a great opportunity to see if everyone's on the same page about what my university does, about what my nonprofit does, about what our working team does, whatever it might be. It's a great, great exercise. What I am giving you right now, these aren't theoretical constructs. These are actual tools that you can use to, in this case, what we're talking about today, lift up LGBTQ voices. I will say, I have never seen anything like this, certainly in my lifetime, of just an unbelievable focused attack on LGBTQ people. We are seeing, I mean, we even saw here in Ohio just a few days ago, well, actually, they also saw it in Idaho. There's a couple different stories. I think Idaho was the one that got national press of really neo-Nazis who were in a car heading to a pride to cause damage, right? It's not great. More and more people are coming out, which is increasing, I think, the sense of urgency for conservative people who want to reduce the presence of LGBTQ people. But as the conservative side, I don't know what else to call it, as their sense of urgency goes up, then we are in a place where they are introducing more and more bills to truly deny the lived experience of LGBTQ people. This is not a time when we need to leave LGBTQ equality to LGBTQ people. We need allies, and we have to be intersectional. I'm a white gay male. At the end of the day, I have an enormous amount of privilege. We know that when we start folding in different identities, because we are all intersectional people, we know that Black trans women are being murdered at alarming rates, right? And so it can't just be Black trans women advocating for Black trans women. That's not going to work. So what I wanted to leave you all with today is to just pick one area. Pick one area where you want to just talk to someone else and amplify an LGBTQ issue. Whether you are an LGBTQ individual, whether you are an ally, whatever is in your role, however you can use your privilege to amplify LGBTQ voices, I will tell you, I've never seen it more needed than now. I feel like I should be leaving on a more positive note. Happy Pride, right? So this is activism, right? I'm thrilled that we're in a place where we can have these conversations, and I'm thrilled that you all are carving out the time and you're taking the time to watch this either live or on video, on recording. But this is a time when we really need assistance, where we really need people to use their voices, but you can't use your voice unless you are informed. And so to be informed, you really do need to tap into some of this news. If you're in Ohio, please the Buckeye Flame, but wherever you are, there are LGBTQ publications that desperately need your help. Heather.
Hi, Ken. One of the things that I've learned from you is a lot of times I've worked with you on race issues and gender issues. One of the things that I hear and you hear, we're preaching to the choir. The people on this call want to be here. And what do you say to them?
Because you've heard me say it before. Am I allowed to cuss on this? Because I do have a very specific response. I won't. I love that hesitation. You know, I hear that constantly, like, oh, the people who are here aren't the ones who need it, right? We're preaching to the choir. Yeah, that's like yelling at the on-time people about the late people. You're a choir. Effing sing, right? I have completely banned that phrase, preaching to the choir. And it's one that I used to use all the time. Oh, the people who are here aren't the ones who need to know it. This is the choir. It's Judy from accounting. Judy from accounting is the one we need to get. Well, she's not here. Why are we having conversations about people that are not here? There are people here. And so if everyone here does something, then we're a choir and we're singing. But we spend so much time not singing and talking about the people who didn't show up to choir rehearsal. I have completely banned that phrase. Oh, you know which professor should be here? They're not. They're not. Heather knows this. There's a whole open source technology. It's called the art of hosting. I'm obsessed with it. It's basically a cult at this point. It's not, but it's a way of increasing conversations, of having uncomfortable conversations, particularly around race, though certainly around sexual orientation as well. You can go to theartofhosting.org, or you just type in the art of hosting into your browser. And there are these 4 rules and 1 law of the art of hosting. And this is how I will use these all the time. I use it all the time. Whoever is here are the people who are supposed to be here. Whenever we start, that's when we start. Whenever we end, that was the time to end. And whatever happened was supposed to happen. If we didn't get to the agenda, but we were having a really important conversation, wonderful. But we still want to work towards movement. So those are the 4 principles. But then the 1 law it's called the law of 2 feet. If you are standing in a place where you are not creating change, move. Move. That's on all of us. If this isn't your bag, great. Come up with some other way of making a difference. But you have to be doing good. That is the law, right? So if it's not working for you, if my style doesn't work for you, awesome. Go to somebody else. If this method doesn't work for you, amazing. But stop spending all your time talking about the people who aren't here. They're not here. They literally can't hear you. And stop complaining that we're not doing enough. Do something. So yeah, as Heather's heard me say a trillion times over, stop having meetings about having meetings. Start having meetings that move the needle. Start each meeting with, how have we moved the needle since our last meeting? That's what you start with. Not let's recap, not let's, well, who's not here, right? How have we created change since the last meeting? I think we're all good on meetings. So let's start having meetings where we move the needle, because we really need to. Thank you for that. I like that phrase, preach to the choir. I
won't use it again for you, but
I love it. I love it.
One thing that anytime anybody who's got a comment, please put it in the chat and we'll bring it, because I don't think people can come off mic, so off mute. So anything anybody wants to say. But while we're waiting, one of the questions I get is, you said, if you want people to attend your event, attend other events. And people say, but oh, that sounds like a quid pro quo. You're not doing it for the heart. It's like you said, the money is there. And I like to think of it as karma. Even if you don't come back and attend my event, I'm still getting karma. So I'm coming out ahead.
First of all, it probably has to do with you. It just does. It's almost a challenge to find an event where you do not find some sort of intersection with your identities. First of all, it probably does have something to do with you. Second of all, in the case that it doesn't, or if it does, you're going to learn something and it's going to help you in your work. You're going to learn a way of doing things, and that's going to help you in your work. And then, yes, down the line is also the showing up for other people helps them show up for you. I use this example a lot. A few years ago, about 6 years ago in Cleveland, there was a city council meeting and there were 2 items on the agenda, 2 only. The first item was to add in protections for transgender Clevelanders, which weren't in the city ordinances at that time. That was item number 1. Item number 2 was increasing the minimum wage. Those are the only 2 items. At this meeting, there were a ton of audience members there, largely LGBTQ people there for adding the trans protections, and largely Black activists in Cleveland to increase the minimum wage. The first item on the agenda was adding the trans protections. The city council approved them. Everybody clapped. Yay, yay, yay. Everybody clapped. And then what happened, Heather, right after that?
A lot of people left.
Sure as hell did. Yep, a ton of people left. And maybe it would have been different people had they reversed the agenda items. But what we want to get to is a place where everybody stays, where all of our struggles and all of our fights for equality and all of our achievements are all tied in together, because what lifts you up lifts me up, and vice versa. Everybody should have stayed for that. That's intersectionality.
Yep.
I love that example too.
I think I'm guessing that people are just so
So
in awe that there are not any
so
questions right now.
If you want to get in touch with me, folks, please don't hesitate to do that. I will look at your elevator pitch. I do it all the time. Didn't we do that? Heather and I did that at one point.
Yeah.
I will always look at your elevator pitch. So send me an email, editor@thebuckeyeflame.com, editor@thebuckeyeflame.com. I'm super easy to get in touch with. Just drop me a line saying, look, I'm going to use this and go with it, because that bolsters me. So hearing, your energy then increases my energy.
So thank you so much, Ken.
Oh, man,
I appreciate it. And know that we'll be making a donation to the Buckeye Flame, because it's the right thing to do. We put it out there and someone will give to us. So we're helping each other out, and I love it. Thank you again for everyone who came and the people who are listening to the recording. This has been the June webinar for the Elimination of Prejudice Foundation, featuring Dr. Ken Schneck. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you all. Do good things, make good choices.